Welcome to the CondoVultures.com podcast with your host, Peter Zalewski, a Miami real estate broker, Wall Street consultant, and expert witness. This podcast is focused on identifying real estate buying opportunities in the South Florida condo market of Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. The CondoVultures.com podcast is not authorized by the South Florida real estate industry and will most likely annoy many of the region's talking heads. This podcast will feature straight talk and salty language that could be offensive to some. Please remember that past investment success does not determine future gains, especially in South Florida's volatile condo market. For more information, please visit CondoVultures.com. Don't buy a South Florida condo, discounted or distressed, before taking a Condo Vultures correction tour. CondoVultures.com offers weekly bus and walking tours that focus on educating buyers on the how-tos of identifying discounted condos, analyzing the opportunities, and purchasing units. Every tour attendee receives a list of all condo projects in a particular market, a market assessment handout, and unmatched expert analysis. For more information on the condo correction tours, please visit condovultures.eventbrite.com.
This is Peter Zalewski of the Condo Vultures podcast. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. And I wanted to alert you that if you have a property that you're looking to sell in the Tri-County, South Florida area, I would encourage you to reach out to Jenny Cortez, a licensed real estate broker with cvrrealty.com. She's my partner. She's been in the business for north of 15 years. More importantly, she knows the market. She knows how to get a deal done. And she also realizes that it's more important to get a price that you can accept and sell the property rather than to hold firm on some price that's never going to be achieved and ultimately languish on the market. So if you're looking to do a deal that you want a skilled expert who can help you sell a property, reach out to Jenny Cortez at 305-865-5859, 305-865-5859, or visit her website, cvrrealty.com.
Welcome to Miami Reporters Roundtable. I'm your host, Peter Zalewski from Condo Vultures. If you're turning into this podcast, you can hear a conversation by current and former journalists talking about some of the biggest stories that have occurred within the last week. And what we're going to do is we're going to kick them around, try to cut through some of the hyperbole that's out there in the marketplace and help you, the audience, understand what is really going on. This is a podcast dedicated to developers, investors, individual buyers who might be out there trying to play the game, sellers, as well as gadflies. So if you're somebody who wants to have something to talk about at a cocktail party, you're probably going to pick up some pretty good content. And what are the rules of engagement? Well, I handpicked 6 articles. I send them off to our roundtable. Ask each of the roundtable members to read 2 articles, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to discuss them. Let me go ahead and be introductions. We're going to start off with a gentleman who was a journalist for over 25 years, primarily worked on the west coast of Florida. Right now, he has a public relations marketing firm called Gruss Communications. You can get him on his website, which is grusspr.com, GRUSSPR.com. No one else but John Gruss. What's going on, Mr. Gruss? How are you?
Hey, Peter. How's it going? And I'm also on Twitter, by the way, at John Gruss.
You are also on Twitter. Wow, look at that. This is season 4. So we're not doing the old stodgy email anymore. We're actually going to be going via Twitter. So anybody wants to get a hold of Jean, they can get him on Twitter at Jean Gruss, JeanGruss. So Mr. Gruss, I was looking on social media. I see you were doing some diving this weekend. How'd all that go?
I dive every weekend, Peter. Get away from you guys.
You're rubbing it in, huh? Rubbing it in.
I live here.
That's why you live here. Who else do we have on the podcast? We have a gentleman who has been a journalist for nearly 50 years. You heard me right, 50. At one point, he was my editor. He was my boss. We're not going to ask him about what my copy was like, because we'll probably get a bad response. But let's just go ahead and gloss over that. This gentleman right now is a senior reporter over at the South Florida SunSentinel. It's no one else but David Lyons. You want to get a hold of David, you can get him on Twitter at David V. Lyons, D-A-V-I-D, the letter V like Victor, Lyons, L-Y-O-N-S. What's going on, Mr. Lyons? How's the news?
Well, it's developed by a storm right now. We're getting some bands from the oncoming Idalia.
Hurricane Idalia, which is coming from what? Mexico
southwest
or the Gulf of Mexico,
this-
heading northeast?
Right now outside. They're brushing past the Keys and Sea Key and toward Apalachicola and the Big Bend of the Panhandle.
We're recording this on a Tuesday. The storm is supposed to make landfall in the state of Florida. When is that? On Wednesday?
A fast-moving storm.
All right, so it'll make landfall on Wednesday. We're going to be publishing this on Friday. So in next week's podcast, we're going to go ahead and discuss what ultimately came down from the hurricane. And who else do we have this particular week? We have one of our regulars. The guy has been a journalist for over 20 years. Right now, he does public relations and marketing. It's no one else but John Fakler. If you want to get a hold of John on Twitter, you can get him at JT Fakler, Fakler. What's going on, Mr. Fakler?
Hey, I'm doing great. Glad to be aboard.
We remind you, if you're listening to this podcast in an audio format and you actually want to watch it, you can check us out on Spotify or any other platform that provides for video. You can also check us out on YouTube, where our handle is Condo Vultures TV. And let me also remind you, we're actually in the merch business now. We've created a whole series of merchandise that you can buy if you're a fan of our podcast. We have it for the Miami Reporters Roundtable. And what we're also doing too is we are looking at each of the journalists that participate. And David, this is news to you. We're looking at all the journalists that participate as superheroes, much like Marvel has all its superheroes. You can go ahead, you can buy a coffee mug, you can buy a welcome mat outside of your door. You can get a throw pillow. You can get flip-flops, any and all of the above. So David, we'll talk after the podcast, but if you agree, what we'll do is we'll take a screenshot of your participation in the podcast. What's like when you you go on a ride at Disney or Universal up in Orlando. We will then turn around and make it a marketable item. We don't make a lot off of this, but we want to sort of just get the word out and have people, the audience, be able to celebrate some of our superhero. So David, you're a superhero, whether or not you know it or not, with the Miami Reporters Roundtable. So let me remind everybody, if you have any comments for us, you have any questions, you want to compliment anybody, you want to criticize, please go ahead and send us a message on Twitter. You can get us at Miami RRP, at Miami RRP. It is not AARP, which is for those retirees. It is Miami RRP, which stands for Miami Reporters Roundtable Podcast. So all that being said, let's go ahead and get ready to get into our stories. But I will tell you, we're not doing the advertisings anymore in between segments. So what we do is we have one sponsor who's a sponsor this week. What's the sponsor of last week as well? It's myself. I have a company that does brokerage and does consulting. If anybody's in the market for any of those types of services related to condominiums in the Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County area, go ahead and check out my website. Maybe somebody in my firm can work with you to accomplish whatever you're trying to achieve. You can go to condovulturesrealty.com, condovulturesrealty.com. So that's it for the advertising. Let's go ahead and get into our stories. Story number one. John, we're going to go to you with story number one. This piece is coming out of CNBC. I'll read you the headline, first couple graphs, and then I'll ask you to provide your opinion about what CNBC is writing about. Headline: young rich workers are fleeing New York and California. Here's where they're going. And then I'll give you the first couple graphs. Sean, Florida might be known as a retirement destination, but it's attracting plenty of young and wealthy newcomers. Florida is the number one state bringing in and keeping young and rich, according to a recent analysis by Smart Asset, which ranks states based on net migration. Financial site determined that states netting the most young professionals ages 26 to 35 who earn at least $200,000 per year in adjusted gross income, based on the most recently publicly available IRS numbers from 2021. That year, some 3,400 high-earning young people moved to Florida. 1,200 left, leaving the state with a net migration of 2,200 wealthy young people, as determined by Smart Assets. In second place, Texas saw the second largest wave of young people and wealthy newcomers, with about 4,050 moving in over the course of a year. California boasts the biggest influx in the United States, with nearly 5,000 new taxpayers of this demographic. However, the Lone Star State also saw a large outflow of young, wealthy people leaving, over 2,000 taxpayers, resulting in a net migration of about 1,900. And in third place, New Jersey. While wealthy people of all ages generally left the state at a high rate, it also netted about 1,050 new rich young professionals in the same year. John, what's going on? Why is Florida so popular with young people? I thought Florida is supposed to be a destination for the retiree contingent.
Yeah, well, I mean, since in the last 3 years, a lot of finance and tech companies have relocated their headquarters or major operations to South Florida. So it's really not a surprise that high-income finance and tech workers have moved to Florida as well. It's interesting. I was just looking at a story from CoStar News recently that said 158 companies have moved out of New York, and combining it with a combined assets under management of $1 trillion, have moved to states such as Florida out of New York. So, I mean, a lot of these folks who work for these companies are young, and they have a lot of disposable income. They have high salaries. And then the other thing too is for them it's attractive because both Florida and Texas have no state income tax. So I mean, automatically moving to Florida or making your domicile in Florida or Texas gives you a boost in pay automatically without doing anything. But it's interesting. I've noticed sort of a trend recently that a lot of high income folks are actually living in multiple places. So while they may have relocated to Florida and made Florida their home for tax purposes, perhaps, they're also going back to New York and perhaps living there part time. For a variety of reasons. Maybe they miss it, and maybe they want to be part of the action in New York or even San Francisco. So that's kind of an interesting trend to keep track of, especially in the summertime, like right now. I mean, I think a lot of people would probably rather be somewhere other than Florida during hurricane season and during high heat. We've had experienced tremendously high levels of heat this summer. So but overall, generally speaking, I mean, there are a lot of reasons why young wealthy people would want to be here, and their employers are here. So that's a big step, big reason for that.
Interesting. We're going to go to John Fakler for the next story, but David, let me ask you a question before we do. Some of the stories we're going to discuss today that you wrote have to do with inflation, the cost of housing, and all that in Florida. So I guess the question, and I'd be curious to see if you have any opinion on, is the story is based on 2021 numbers. That's at a time when the housing market was starting to gain some steam. Remember, right after the pandemic hit, nobody knew what was going to happen with pricing. It was a little bit soft, and then lo and behold, everybody could work from home, and they just flooded into Florida, which, if you remember, was sort of a wide open state opposed to like someplace like New York. David, what have we seen since 2021 when this when this study was put together? Has there been a change, or would you venture to guess, and this is just speculation on your part, would you venture to guess that maybe when that study's done next year, it might show something a little bit different in terms of how many of these young new people came to Florida, how many of them actually stuck around?
Well, I think a fair number of people have stuck around because remote work has played into the equation in a large way. There are a number of companies that are still, they're in that proverbial struggle over hybrid workplaces and allowing management are still having a hard time bringing people back into the office. There have been mandates, there have been firings, there have been threats, there have been incentives. And there's still, this tug of war, so to speak, between employees and who now have, they still have a lot more leverage because they can go somewhere else to work if the employer doesn't agree with the working conditions that many of these employees are now enjoying in the wake of the advent of COVID, and then now that we're more or less easing out of the pandemic era. The workplace has definitely changed. I mean, there are a lot of people, a lot of employers who are, creating incentives to get people to come back into the office, or there's an arrangement being made, 3 days a week in the office, 2 days a week remotely. And, some of these, as was pointed out, there are people who are able to an apartment in downtown Fort Lauderdale, for example, and fly away to their New York office for maybe 2 or 3 days and then come back. And so there's a fair amount of transit living, if you will. People are still, people are still able to be very mobile if they're in a high job where they're skilled, they have a lot of knowledge, they're in finance, they're in technology. Obviously, you're not going to see that in the hospitality or on the ground transportation industry, but I people are concerned because the educational system has gotten a lot better here in Florida, so people are looking very aggressively at the quality of the secondary education for their children, and the area's the state's colleges have bumped up in quality over the years too. I've been done here from upstate New York for 43 years, and the landscape is completely different in terms of the backdrop that would support 24/7, 365-day a year population.
Interesting. Well, and that's a perfect transition for our next story. So before I read the headline in the first couple graphs, and in this story, we're going to go to you, Mr. Fakler. Generally speaking, a lot has been made about culture and the arts in Miami and in South Florida ever since Art Basel. Many would point to as a symbolic sort of start. You had the evolution of Wynwood with the wall murals, things like that. Now, the flip side is we need housing. So these are the two elements that are going to be juxtaposed. And Mr. Fakler, I'm going to want you to comment on this. Let me read you the headline in the first couple graphs. This is coming out of Miami Today. Headline: History Miami, awaiting new home, envisions the future. First couple graphs. While History Miami Museum awaits the county's final Metro Center project plan that could move its location, the museum has utilized the time gathering insights from the community. The museum has for some months been gathering insights from key stakeholders and utilizing different methods of soliciting community feedback from surveys that were sent to the public and facilitating community workshops to get a better idea of how History of Miami will be envisioned in the future. Every department's been working on these exercises that are informing and inspiring the process of our new vision, said Natalia Krujeras, History Miami CEO and Executive Director. We're very excited about the direction that it's going, and it's good that we're able to think about our future this way. The museum is part of the county's Metro Center project, that plan that would redesign about 17 acres of county-owned land that includes the present museum into a Metro Center community. When finished, the museum would grow 50% larger than its current location at 101 Flagler Street. The Metro Center project is targeted to be a 24-hour community with housing, intermodal transit terminal, educational building, parks, new cultural facilities, and the whole proposed project could take up to 15 years. Mr. Fakler, there is a museum complex that's designed, it looks like a typical square anywhere in Latin America, even parts of the Caribbean, where you have History Miami, you have the library, it's all right next door to the Dade County Courthouse, as well as Miami-Dade County Government Hall. Basically, what the plan is to knock down this cultural center of a library, as well as History Miami Museum, replace it with a high-rise rental project over the course of 15 years, and then supposedly give it extra spaces, History Miami location. So, Mr. Fakler, my question to you is, are we sacrificing culture to build more rentals in downtown Miami, greater downtown Miami? And how confident are you that the county will follow through on its plan, given the fact that many things have been promised whenever there's any kind of redevelopment going on, i.e. The American Airlines Arena, which then became the FTX Arena, but then after a bankruptcy and a fraud scheme, turned into the Kaseya Center. And there was supposed to be a park involved there and some other things. So, Mr. Fakler, are we sacrificing culture for housing? And will the county follow through and actually do what it says it's going to do as part of this brand new study? What say you?
Well, for this thing to come online, it's going to take 15 years. So that makes me really, really worried that it's not going to come to fruition, given the state of real estate, Miami politics, everybody, put grant handing, trying to get a little piece for themselves. I'm not too confident. And 15 years from now, I'll be pushing up daisies. But that said, in order for Miami to become a first-tier cultural center, you're going to need to have a museum likeness. I've been in Miami proper for 10 years. I didn't even know we had a museum here. So I don't know what kind of marketing was being done or whatever, but I didn't even know we had a museum. Now, all of a sudden, we've got the aquarium, we've got the planetarium, all this other stuff going on. So why not the museum? And, from firsthand knowledge, I actually worked for the Museum of Natural History in New York, which had a very similar layout to this. You had, millions of historical photographs, archaeological findings. You had the dinosaurs. This sort of, well, it was really interesting. And it's definitely a destination, and that's what this would be if they decided to expand, adding the real estate to it to make it a 24-hour community. It'll be a transit hub as well, I'm told. So they seem to plan this out thoughtfully. I just don't have a lot of confidence that it's going to get off the ground, just because, again, 15 years, anything can happen.
And it's interesting you mentioned the transit hub. Just for anybody who's maybe listening or watching this podcast, the library location and the History of Miami Museum location are located right next to effectively where Brightline and Tri-Rail will be coming into downtown Miami. Brightline, anybody doesn't know, is a faster train, private train that runs all the way up the East Coast effectively and will go to Orlando. And the Tri-Rail is a train system that's out west of I-95 that beginning in October will be able to come into downtown Miami. So, and then you also have the Metro Mover, which is basically the bus on tracks, which is free, as well as the Metro Rail, which connects Condo all the way to Miami International Airport. So interesting.
Yep.
We'll have to see how that plays out. Next story, we're going to go to David Lyons. David, this is a story you wrote. It appeared in the South Florida SunSentinel. I'm going to read the headline, first couple graphs, then I'll ask you to just provide some insight. You might not be able to provide opinion because you wrote about it, but maybe you can share with the audience anything and everything possible. So here is the headline. Here's the first couple graphs, and then I'll ask you to take over from there, David. Headline: inflation waves keep sweeping South Florida economy amidst post-pandemic rebound. Now, and then the first couple graphs. Since Florida's economy rebounded from COVID-19 largely ahead of most states, South Florida has been widely regarded in business and economic circles as somewhat of an outlier, an impregnable fortress of low unemployment, burgeoning opportunity, and a magnet for people from elsewhere who want to be here. That picture was reinforced Friday when the Florida Commerce announced another round of low joblessness rates statewide and in the Tri-County area, as well as healthy job growth in a variety of sectors. Moreover, there's been recent announcements of more businesses relocations to Broward and Palm Beach counties, coupled with, of course, the arrival of international soccer star Lionel Messi of Inter Miami, a one-man economic driver whose Messi mania has captivated even soccer agnostics. And David, before you answer, let me just throw out there that I am a member of the supporters club called Vice City. So is Mr. Fakler. Mr. Fakler, who is a NFL football fan, and he's a New York Jets fan. Unfortunately, he's a Miami Dolphins territory. He is our resident soccer or football expert. So if you have any soccer questions, David, make sure you to direct them to Mr. Fakler, who's been the one match thus far, but he's an avid follower.
Yeah, well, the key number, I guess I have too much on top of the nut graph there, which is that, despite this wonderful surge of economic development and people coming to town and buttressing all of our local economies, the Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties, the cost of doing business is really been on the rise since the Federal Reserve decided to undertake its war on inflation. And so my purpose writing the story was to try to see the degree to which businesses who are experiencing the higher cost of doing business are passing along these additional costs to consumers. And, restaurateurs, the people who are running chains or individual eateries are, they admit, they really don't have anywhere else to pass those costs along to except for the consumer. And so, when tourists come in here, they're paying $12 for a bottle of beer as opposed to $4 back in their hometowns. And, certainly when Florida opened up of a number of other states as a tourism destination, the hotels did not hesitate to, up the prices of their rooms to recover some of the losses that they suffered during the COVID shutdowns. So, this inflationary push has pretty much been in place, over the last 18 months to 2 years, in my estimation. And of course, concurrently, on the construction side, the building boom has been, slowed by incredible increases in insurance costs, labor and supplies, and all the rest. And of course, in the marine industry, which is a billion-dollar driver of the economy here in the state of Florida, with several companies that need skilled workers. For example, an individual who runs a propeller company, for boats, needs skilled workers, and he freely admitted that there's no way that he's going to retain those workers unless he pays top dollar to keep them, on the roster. So it's how long this goes on, I'm not sure. I mean, developers, there are developers who have projects on hold up here. There are about 40 residential projects that are on the drawing boards here in the greater Fort Lauderdale area. And, many high rises, many apartments, mostly apartment, multifamily projects. And there are, the aforementioned condo projects. There are a couple of those are being squeezed in. But, the well-designed, well-financed ones are proceeding. In Flagler Village, for example, that burgeoning space north of the central business district in Fort Lauderdale, there are 5 projects that are ready to go. 4 of the 5 are moving forward because they've got their financing. Village, the arts area that's being touted as the Wynwood up here, although I think that's kind of a stretch. They're still working on their financing. The the 250-story tower project. They're waiting things to align, costs to align themselves a little bit better. But there are 3 others that are moving forward, kind of incrementally. But there's been a slowdown in the developmental segment of our economy, the real estate production, because costs are really pressing the developers.
David, I want to ask you, there was at the end of your article, and I found this very interesting. Again, it appeared in the South Florida SunSentinel. Last 2 graphs. Here we go. Fort Lauderdale bankruptcy attorney Chad Van Horn noted that filings of personal bankruptcies have been on the rise in South Florida during the first half of the year when compared to 2022, but the numbers have not yet reached the level of pre or early COVID-19 years. And here's his quote. And then David, maybe you can just comment on this. I think that people got used to money being there and they lived a certain lifestyle, Van Horn said. For some of the expenses, it's hard to flip the switch and say, I'm not going to pay bills anymore. David, what was Mr. Van Horn, or what did you take away from Mr. Van Horn? Are we going to see a boom in personal bankruptcies, given the fact that people were living a lifestyle that as inflation occurred, as rents went up, as property insurance is going up, that maybe people can't continue to burn the cash at the same velocity that they had been during the pandemic?
Down and is up. I mean, the U.S. consumer, I think it was Bankrate or another tracking consumer website that said there's $1 trillion in consumer debt out there right now, credit card debt, and it's all running at these astronomical interest rates. So people are falling behind on their payments. I think people felt, particularly in this area, they're fairly comfortable because there are a lot of jobs to be had, and wages have been, rising to a certain degree, particularly if you're in the organization. The people in the airline industry are getting raises as a result of new contracts. Even in the hospitality industry, some of the larger properties that have long-time hospitality workers who are unionized, they've been getting higher wages through contracts with some of these bigger hotels and resorts, because the bigger hotels and resorts want the business, and in order to have business, they need the people to work for them, and so they've been essentially throwing in the towel and allowing, giving in to some of these higher demands from the unions that they wouldn't have conceded to previously. But by the same token, I do think that there was a consumer boom, particularly after COVID moved on, and people had a fair amount of government money, and then suddenly they realized that they had to pick up the jobs that they wanted, and many of them were at higher wages than they were making, and so as consumers are wont to do, they go out and leverage themselves to the point where one day they're able to cover their expenses, but later on, as expenses go up and interest rates go up, I think there was an expectation that the Fed was going to jump in and finally raise interest rates to the point where the housing market it's not quite frozen, but it's certainly frozen, slowed down because of the 7% plus interest rates for 30-year fixed mortgages that are in place right now.
And that's a perfect transition for Jean, for story number 4, Jean. And I kind of did this intentionally when I was laying out the stories in the order we would have. So story number 4, Jean, we're going to go to you. This story is coming out of the Commercial Observer. And the headline is Florida's Favorite Lender, How Berkadia's Mitch Sinberg Captured Market Share in South Florida. Here we go. First couple graphs, Sean, and I'll ask you to comment. Mitch Sinberg is riding high lately. After $6 billion in deal volume in 2021 and $5 billion in deal volume in 2022, the senior managing director of Berkadia, South Florida, has helped make his firm the top provider of commercial mortgages in the state. This year, Berkadia surpassed both JLL and CBRE in South Florida deal volume and has recently closed a number of high-profile transactions, including a $200 million recap of 3 multifamily properties in Orlando and Fort Myers and $215 million in construction financing in Miami's Wynwood Plaza. Sinberg sat down in late July with Commercial Observer to discuss his career, how he built his team, the pros and cons of South Florida's market, and why multifamily is the hottest asset class in the game. John, I want to get your immediate reaction to that. And then after that, I'm going to come back and just read you part of the Q&A. Yeah. So, John, do you want to be Florida's most popular banker at this moment in time in the state of Florida?
No. Hey, Peter, did you know we were in a real estate recession? Like after reading that headline, do you think people would get the impression that we're in a real estate recession? Well, this is like, a puff piece. Okay. It's like a puff piece about this guy in commercial real estate. Okay. And it starts out all rosy and all these deals and all of that. And then you get to a part in the Q&A, and I'm going to read this to us here. And it says here, it's the guy who's the reporter who's asking the question says, talk to us about the South Florida market. What are the opportunities and pitfalls? And this guy answers, nationally, we're in a real estate recession. Oh my God, we're in a recession. But the South Florida market would best be defined as less slow than the rest of the country. We've certainly seen a significant decrease in transactions, but it's not because of population economic growth. We have capital markets disparity that created a slowdown of transactions. So what he's basically saying, and what we know now, is that the capital markets have basically shut down. Lenders are not financing projects. In fact, I think the South Florida Business Journal had a story last week that said that in South Florida, commercial real estate transactions were down 60%. 60%. 60% in the last quarter compared to the same quarter a year ago. And it doesn't have anything to do with the fundamentals of the market, population growth and economic activity and all that. It's got everything to do with the financial markets and the rise in interest rates. And the fact of the matter is regulators are coming down hard on regional banks, which are the prime funders of commercial real estate projects like apartments, and have come down hard on them and are requiring higher capital levels. And so all these lenders have been pulling back because they're really afraid that they're hitting the peak of the market. The other thing that's kind of crazy, and I saw this as well, I think in the South Florida Business Journal, it said that in South Florida, there's a pipeline of 55,000 apartments under construction. That's a lot of apartments, and they're currently under construction. So there may be even more in the pipeline. So that combined with the fact that projects don't pencil out anymore primarily because of financing, because your financing costs have basically doubled, not to mention insurance and labor and all the things that David mentioned. So projects are just not penciling out. So the fact of the matter is, it's no surprise that commercial real estate projects, 60% decline in commercial real estate deals. I mean, we are really in a real estate recession. He's right, but you wouldn't guess it from the headline, right?
No, you would not guess it. And I wonder if I would want to be Florida's most popular banker, given interest rates being what they are, given all the other challenges that we're facing. So Although, John, just to clarify for the audience, this isn't an FDIC insured institution. This is not a bank with regulators. This is private money, basically, that's able to put money on the street as they see fit, not as the regulators see fit, correct?
He's a broker. So he brings the financing folks together with the developers. I mean, they bring people to the table, basically. So, it could be banks, it could be other sources of financing. It could be private investors, private equity, insurance companies. But he mentions in the story that even those folks are pulling back. Institutional investors, they're not. They're like the rest of us. They don't want to pay, the top dollar at the peak of the market with the tsunami of inventory that's coming online. And
it's only 55,000, John. Only 55,000.
It's going to drive rents down. Your projects are not penciling out. It's just, that's why the market is basically frozen.
And that is a perfect transition to story number 5 with David Lyons. David, SunSentinel, you wrote this story. Let me read you the headline, first couple graphs. And then I want you to comment based on what John was just discussing. Here we go. Headline: South Florida homes heavily overvalued. Report finds with Greater Miami ranked 11th in the nation. Subhead: we're going to have to adjust to buying less for more. First couple graphs, David. While Florida remains highly rated as a landing spot for businesses and people seeking to relocate from elsewhere in the United States, 9 of the top 15 metropolitan areas in the National Survey of Overvalued Home Markets are in the Sunshine State, according to researchers at 2 South Florida universities. While it's hardly news that steep home prices continue to flummox would-be home buyers around the state, Florida Atlantic University's real estate economist Ken Johnson was not expecting so many cities to be in the grip of over-the-top prices. And this is a quote from Mr. Johnson. What's surprising is that all of the Florida metros we measure are now within the top 15% of overpriced markets for over a year ago, he said Tuesday. And let me just read you the percentage of overvaluation that we have going on in the state of Florida, according to this study. Tampa, 43% overvalued. Northport, which is on the west coast of Florida, 42%. Cape Coral, 42%. Lakeland, 40%. Palm Bay, 40%. Greater Miami, 39%. Jacksonville, 38%. Orlando, 38%. And Deltona, 38%. David, what do you make of this? What is going on? And are we really overvalued if supposedly 1,000 people a day are moving to the state of Florida?
Go north. Millennials go north to Georgia. That's Alabama. I mean, that was, I don't know. It's, I think people are kind of fed up with, with the high prices. And there's another story out there with the U.S. Census showing that Broward County's population growth is flat, and Miami-Dade is losing people because there's a number of people who just don't want to hang around them anymore, paying $12 beers, and just the general cost of living is high, as well as obviously the prices are being high. However, the realtor groups up this way, realtor associations up this way, Broward and Palm Beach County were actually saying that transactions are down in the median, I guess the median price of homes. Found this to be rather quirky and bizarre. Median price of homes are $600,000 in both Broward and Palm Beach County. They found kind of stunning.
Wow!
But clearly it goes back to who the people who are flooding into South Florida are those high wage individuals who are willing to pay the higher prices for homes and to drive up those prices. And of course, there are a number of people who don't want to sell, because they're still hanging on to their homes, looking for a top line number to sell their house. On top of that, of course, a lot of those people who are in the selling market are essentially over 3 and 4% mortgages, and we can sell for a price, but where are you going to get a new home for 3 or 4% these days? You sell out the home number 1, and then home number 2 is where in Apalachicola. Maybe they'll be lower prices up that way.
So David, quick question. I'm wondering, David, is if something is overvalued, does that mean it's going to come down, or does that mean it's going to stagnate until the market catches up with the price that's sort of in place? Was there any indication from the people you spoke to in the reporting you were doing for the story? Are we, is this a foreshadowing? Is this foreshadowing for some sort of price adjustment downward? Or is this just a suggestion? This is a new baseline, and now we just simply are ahead of ourselves. It's like a cash advance, and now we're going to need the next decade or as long as it takes
I
to
think
catch
that
up to the overvaluation.
the people involved in this research are forecasting crim or a sizable decline in price. I think they're looking at somewhat of a stagnant market going forward until there's more inventory and prices do ease up a bit. But I mean, that's the problem right now. There's really no substantial construction of single family housing in this region that I know of. I don't know, maybe you guys have identified some projects. I mean, there are projects going up, but there are smaller projects. There are homes out there where there's smaller spaces being constructed and closer into the urban areas, but there are tear downs and things of that nature. But there's certainly, of course, there's one developer who's been fighting to chew up that big reserve up in Palm Beach County. It's a fight right now over whether or not that land, which has been set aside for preservation and culture, the reserve is shrinking because there are developers who are banging on the the doors of City Hall to essentially, allow them to build in that area. So
Interesting. All right, so we're gonna go to John with story number 6. John Fakler. John, this story's coming out of South Florida Business Journal. Before I read the headline, the first couple graphs, let me just sort of provide the context. Last week during our Reporters Roundtable, there was a story about the former town attorney. So the attorney for the town of Bay Harbor Islands, who, according to the Real Deal, pled guilty to what they called real estate fraud. We've done other stories about potential Ponzi-like type schemes. So we've seen a whole series, well, not a whole series. We've seen a series of these starting to crop up or pop up as the economy is sort of changing. People are getting a little bit squeezed on finances. So I'm going to read the headline from the next couple of graphs from Mr. Fakler, who used to write about white collar crime when you were over at the South Florida Business Journal. So I want to get your take on it. Here we go. Headline: former investment firm CEO charged in alleged $191 million Ponzi scheme. Again, coming out of South Florida Business Journal. First couple graphs. A South Florida federal grand jury has charged a former Broward County investment firm CEO with allegedly conducting a multi-million-dollar investment Ponzi scheme. The indictment, unsealed August 25th, charged Johanna McKelly Garcia of NJ Capital Funding in Pompano Beach with a total of 29 counts that comprise conspiracy to commit wire fraud and mail fraud, multiple counts of wire fraud, mail fraud, and money laundering totaling nearly $191 million. According to the indictment, MJ Capital offered merchant cash advances, a type of short-term financing typically used by small and medium-sized businesses. The indictment alleges that from October of 2020 till August of 2021, Garcia, Pablo Ramon Ruiz Hernandez, and others fraudulently solicited capital from investors purportedly to fund the firm's MCAs. Mr. Fakler, are we starting to see a hell of a lot more of these alleged Ponzi schemes surfacing? And if so, why are we seeing more? Are the law enforcement officials getting stricter, or is something happening? What's exactly going on? And what say you, a former white-collar crime reporter?
Well, firstly, we're starting to see a lot of these over the last few weeks, haven't we? Last week, we talked about one. We had 2 other that were mentioned also the week before. So I don't know if this is a trend, but we're starting to see a lot of these. Perhaps the DOJ is getting stricter. Perhaps they've amped up their staffs to go after these people. But this is a very ingenious, sophisticated type of Ponzi scheme. It's the fraudulent funds were actually deposited to this company's commercial accounts with Wells Fargo and Chase Bank through payment
through payment such as Zelle, wire transfers, and cashier's checks. Very sophisticated, but I'm sure it took a while for them to gather up the evidence to go after them and pursue this indictment, because this one particular seems very sophisticated, very long reaching, and I'm just wondering if again, very interesting that they gave there was a 10% vig given to these new recruits who were actually the ones going after the investors. So I keep hearing this 10% number. We talked about it last week. Bernie Madoff was a 10% return. The story we talked about last week was a 10% return. It seems like this 10% number keeps cropping up over and over again. And here we are again this week talking about it. So I think it's something to keep an eye on. We're going to see more of these coming down the pipe.
Wow, interesting. Mr. Lyons, Mr. Gruss, either of you want to comment about whether or not we're seeing more and more of these Ponzi schemes? And if so, alleged Ponzi schemes, and if so, why?
Well, I mean, there was another real estate scheme that in which the purveyor was in jail for 20 years. That's about the real estate development group that started in Boca Raton, up in Southern California, buying the homes of celebrities and big estates in Colorado and elsewhere. And the person who was involved was he traded in several other states in between here in California, and was actually sanctioned by state authorities, but he kept on going. And finally, it was the SEC who pursued an investigation and teamed up with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami, and they got a criminal case against this individual and others, and rolled it up. But the key for me is the return that was offered is the equivalent of a preferred stock, 6%, not 10%.
Wow.
Well, so little. 6 or 7%. Not a bad return if you're willing to, buy a high yielding from on the common side, or buy utility stock that yields has a nice yield. It kind of got lost in the weeds. I mean, people thought, 6 or 7%, that's not outlandish. They threw lunches at Florida Atlantic University and advertised in our news. And it went on and on. And I said before, the SEC, along with the U.S. Attorney in Miami, rolled it up, and that was the end of that. But there was, I suppose, restitution money is flowing in some way, shape, or form. But the main thing was that, even 10%, which is should send off a red light of some sort, or a warning signal of some sort. It's not like some of the others where people were advertising 15, 18, or 20% returns. Way back when, but it was almost disguised. This particular one I mentioned, it was almost disguised as an investment, and agents were ingratiating themselves in the senior citizen community of agents, by the way, who had already been cashiered and told that they can't practice this. Stockbrokers anymore. So they help the particular entity. Collect money from various and sundry investors across the country. And, I think alluring, when they're inviting numbers, but they're not outlandishly so. And so that kind of leads people into a false sense of security.
Hiding in plain sight. Very interesting.
So to quote Warren Buffett, when the tide goes out, that's when you find out when people are swimming naked. and honestly, there's been a flood of money from the pandemic, government. Just a flood of money coming into South Florida. And now that money's running out, and you're about to find out, people who perhaps don't have the money anymore. And I think you're going to see a lot more of these cases because people are getting pretty angry. Investors are getting stiffed now. And they're going to get pretty angry, and they're going to rat out all these guys. And we're going to start seeing a lot more of that for that reason. It's when So when times get a little tougher, then you find out, who the swindlers are. It's been easy money for quite a while now, a couple of years, with all these crypto guys and NFTs and all of that stuff. I mean, it's just like been lots of scams going on, and you can hide it when times are good, but when times get a little tougher, that's when, that's when those guys can't hide it as well.
I saw these small businesses who took out loans, PPP loans that were forgiven, but there are other classes of loans that have to be paid back. And when they can't pay them back, who are they going to go to? They counter one of these people who's willing to write a check, to help them out. That's when trouble starts. More trouble starts.
South Florida, one of the best news towns in the country. I want to thank you all for participating in this week's podcast. It was entertaining. We got some great insight. We had some internet problems, but that's not necessarily a big deal. There is a storm out there. Anybody listening to the podcast, this storm is approaching the state of Florida. We're not going to discuss it. We'll discuss it in next week's podcast. But let me go ahead and thank all of our Roundtable members. We have a gentleman who was a journalist for over 25 years. Right now, he does public relations and marketing. He has his own firm called Gruss Communications. You can go to his website, which is GrussPR.com. That's GRUSSPR.com. That's John Gruss. Thank you, John. I also want to thank David Lyons. David, you're what? A senior reporter over the South Florida SunSentinel. Is that right? Close to 50 years as a journalist.
I think I'm still the oldest employee there.
Anybody wants to get a hold of David, you can get him on Twitter at David V. Lyons, at David V. Lyons, D-A-V-I-D, letter V like Victor, Lyons, L-Y-O-N-S. You can get David there. You want to reach out to him. And also want to thank John Fakler. John was a journalist for over 20 years. Right now, he does public relations and marketing. He has his own consultancy. If you want to get a hold of John, reach out to him at J.T. Fakler, J-T-F-A-K-L-E-R, J.T. Fakler. And if you want to send us a comment, you like what we're doing, you dislike what we're doing, send it to Miami RRP, Miami RRP. Again, not AARP, but Miami RRP, which stands for Miami Reporters Roundtable Podcast. And let me just remind you, if you want to buy any kind of merchandise that we have, whether it is a coffee mug, whether it is a throw pillow, whether it's flip-flop. David, I don't know if you know this, but you can actually get a shower curtain with Mr. Fakler's picture on it. The first thing in the morning when you go to take a shower,
that's what he wants to
great
see.
horizontal panoramic. But if anybody wants to check out any of the merchandise, if you want to support us, we're not making a lot off of it. We're basically just trying to get the message out there. Go to condovultures.creator-spring.com. How do you spell that? Well, Condovultures, you know how to spell period or punta if you speak Spanish. Creator, C-R-A-T-O-R hyphen. That line in the middle, spring, like I can't wait for spring.com. Go there, check it out. You'll see some of our superheroes. Check out some of our merchandise, and we would encourage you to sort of do so. And let me remind you, if you're listening to this podcast on an audio-only format, you can actually watch us. Go to YouTube where the handle is Condo Vultures TV, or go to any kind of platform such as Spotify where you can actually watch the video. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. And then remember, if you want to reach out and you want to buy any of that merchandise, condovultures.creator-spring.com. Until next time, take care of yourself. Anybody in the state of Florida who is has a hurricane bearing down on them, we wish you the best. We hope you get out well, and we will be discussing in our next podcast. Take care, everyone. Ciao, ciao.
It's a simple formula, and it works. Buy low, sell high. We're Condo Vultures, and when it comes to your real estate, we help you buy low. At Condo Vultures, we represent the buyer, and now's the time to buy. Log on to condovultures.com for more information. Condovultures.com. And remember, before you sell high, you have to buy low. Featured in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, 60 Minutes, and Time Magazine. Condo Vultures Realty, a licensed Florida real estate brokerage capitalizing on the condo correction since 2006.
This is Peter Zalewski of the Condo Vultures podcast. Before I started doing these podcasts, I was in the business of being a licensed real estate broker, a contributing columnist for the Miami Herald, as well as the Miami Real Deal, but also extra witness work in consulting. So if you are looking for an expert witness, or if you're looking for consulting services, a straight talk perspective as to what's going on in a particular marketplace, a building, or what happened previously, for whatever your situation is, whether you are an attorney, whether you are a institutional fund looking to invest, or whether you're a lender who's trying to come up with some sort of strategy and approach for your lending committee going forward, I just might be able to help you. To get a hold of me, please reach out to Peter@CondoVultures.com. That's Peter@CondoVultures.com. Or give me a call to the office at 305-865-5859, 305-865-5859.